Simcha, celebration, Simcha, Simcha, celebration of life.
Hi, welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm your host, Eitan Berger. Secular Jews choosing to follow a religious life, or ba'alei teshuvah, are often left in a state of confusion as to where they belong in the world. Finding a spiritual home and bridging the gap between the yeshivas of the Haredi, or strictly Orthodox, and those of the ba'alei teshuvah movement can be extremely difficult. Growing up in a secular background, Rabbi Eliyahu Meirav and Rabbi Avraham Abergil decided to open Derech Emunah Yeshiva, believing that the future of their children is one of combining Torah studies as well as that of physics, mathematics, and even music.
Our parents came from all the world to establish the Zionistic idea. They were secular, but they worked very hard to build the cities and the kibbutzim and the villages and the industry and everything, and the army. We, the second generation of them, we understood that we need the spirit also. Spirit is faith in God. So we found it, and we have now to teach our children to combine those two.
We had a dream that we have to make a changement in our society. And we want to grow up young boys that know that they are religious not because of the parents, because they decided to be. And for that you need to talk a lot about faith and things that we don't usually talk in the yeshiva.
I want to create a generation that will maintain the tradition and to be a regular person to support his family and support himself and contribute to society more than doing charity and just do something for the society.
Our children, they don't want to live a life of avrechim, which means learning Torah all day and getting some money from the yeshiva that comes from the government usually, and living a very small life in their city, the places, the Haredi environment that they're living in the close society.
We have now to teach our children to be like normal guys that work and support themselves and not just begging for money all over the world. So that's our task, our goal.
I already had about 30 boys coming to the yeshiva, and I found teachers that I believed they can do the job, and I found rabbis that can do the job, and I started doing it by my own money. I just started it, and I found some friend to help me. And after 3 years, we are here in Tirosh. We have about 4 acres around here, and many dreams and plans to make it a youth village with animals, with gardens.
We have a large staff that deals with everyone in person, and everybody has his very close teacher that takes care of him and sees what's going on with him.
They have here more open relation between the teachers and the students. They learn music, they learn theater. It makes the boys want to come.
And of course, we teach them also secular studies, like they like math, and we teach them the Talmud, the Gemara. That's the real thing of yeshiva. You know, it teaches you how to think, because it touches things to understand deep things, that it touches things in the brain that nothing in mathematics or other can touch it. Education is to create a personality of a person that really wants to be good, wants to be close to God. That's the idea. That's our yeshiva is meant for.
And now we are teaching boys about 5 hours of secular studies. That includes electricity, mathematics, English, and some other lessons that we have to do. But we still keep the place as a yeshiva, which means that the boys learning here from 7 o'clock to the morning till 8 o'clock at evening. As we grown up, we found out that we cannot hold it by ourselves, and we decided to go to Ort and to ask for their help.
Ort Israel is the largest organization that works in Israel for the last 66 years. Ort has a special emphasis to science and technology. In our schools, 60% of the students learn science and technology.
By giving them secular studies, they feel like they're doing something for themselves, not like they're doing something for us or for the religion. So by that we give the boys feeling that they're working on their future.
The vision of our organization is to promote minorities and give them tools to control their lives.
Many important rabbis are behind us now, and they believe this is something that we have to do, because we need to give the people, the boys, the ability to be independent in their lives after the yeshiva. We have 50 boys now, and we choose them also. And school is 4 years here, and maybe we'll do 2 more years to make them engineers. So they will stay here for 4 to 6 years.
I hope and I want to create a new concept of our children and grandchildren, to know that there's no contradiction between being a God worshipper and normal person that works and being like and doing what and support himself.
Our goal is to be a 120 boys school in a large space with a nice country environment, so we can give them a feeling of home and a space to play and to feel they are free, and to succeed in their Torah learning in a way that they will be leaders of others when they want to be older. In this way, we believe that we can make a sample of a yeshiva that has to lead in the future in our society.
Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs says that the mikveh is one of the most transformative institutions in Jewish life, investing your most powerful physical experiences with an equally transfiguring spirituality. Over the centuries, it turned Jewish marriages into the poetry of love, bringing the Shekhinah, the divine presence, into people's lives and homes. Understanding the pivotal role the mikveh plays in a community, the Great Park Synagogue in Johannesburg embarked on building their own facility for use by their congregants and the broader community.
When we built this mikveh facility that was built 2 years ago, was built under a cloud of a lot of opposition, a lot of questioning whether it was important and whether in fact it would be utilized. And here we are 2 years later with over 100 women in the community utilizing the mikveh, and it has become a source of inspiration to their families. So they might begin with this particular commandment and motivation that relates to their own relationship and family, and then it spreads and it moves from the bride to her mother or mother-in-law, and from her to her friends, and to the husbands and to the men. And as has happened repeatedly in history, women who are innately so much more in tune with their spirituality and with the divine connection have inspired whole families to change and to develop and to grow in their Judaism through beginning with the process of mikveh. We wanted it to double up as an educational facility and to be able to bring groups of women and young girls in their senior high school to become aware of what a mikveh is about and what intimacy is about, even from an early age, so that they are not preconceived ideas that are completely off from what is the reality of the Jewish approach. So in this room, we have groups of women who come. We have a video which we show, and there are discussion groups that begin over here. And that has overflowed into a Women's Day, where women speakers come and motivate and educate the women of our community.
When we built our mikveh, we wanted to make sure that a woman would be able to fulfill this mitzvah in the most beautiful way possible. In times bygone, women were committed to this mikveh even in difficult circumstances. Nowadays, we're so lucky that we can fulfill the mitzvah in a spa-like, luxurious way. Therefore, we included amenities in this mikveh, underfloor heating, towel rails that are heated. The details are beautiful so that a woman feels special when she comes here. It's time out. It's time to prepare for the spiritual experience and to really feel the renewal and the birth that is about to take place. The laws of family sanctity entail a rhythm in Jewish marriage in which there are times of sexual rest and times of sexual engagement and connectivity when sexual intimacy is allowed and very much encouraged. For approximately 12 days in a month, husband and wife are forced to connect to one another in ways other than physical intimacy. This includes connecting on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, and then once a woman immerses in the mikveh, husband and wife once again resume their relationship on the physical level.
It is impossible to overstate the importance of mikveh in Jewish life. The Talmud mentions that if one was in a situation where one had to choose between building a synagogue, which is the seat and the home of our Jewish life, and building a mikveh, which relates much more so to the family, it's the mikveh that takes precedence. And that says something very important about our religion and how important family and the dynamics of family, the children raised in a family, the atmosphere created in a family is the core, is so central to our religion. Much, much more important than the activities and the deeds that we do in our social and communal life. Today, families and young couples are looking to find methods of keeping a freshness and an excitement in their relationship. And they are finding that the Torah's ancient rules actually play to so many modern approaches to ensuring that a marriage remains current.
One might think that sexual intimacy is considered sacred because of the commandment of procreation. However, procreation is but one mitzvah related to intimacy. The holiness of intimacy is highlighted when we learn about the creation of man and woman. The Torah teaches us man and woman were created in the image of God, and in fact, when they were first created, they were created as one being. And then God split them into two separate beings. God actually wanted to give us this image of absolute unity and wholesomeness to teach us that this is the ideal when man and woman join together in true intimacy on an emotional, spiritual, and physical level. We are actually emulating God and drawing down godliness into our relationship and into the world.
What is interesting about the description that the Torah gives us for the relationship between a husband and a wife is that it describes the relationship as being re'im ahuvim, which means literally friends and lovers. And Torah wants a marriage to have both of these strengths. The strength of romance, the strength of being intimate and what is unique to two people in love, and at the same time to hold on to the friendship element where one deals with life's issues in a real way, working through problems, working through details, cultivating the growth of the relationship.
The Torah gives us specific guidelines to preserve the beauty of sexual intimacy. Judaism sees sexual intimacy as something special, as something unique, in fact, as something holy.
Today, a bride preparing for her marriage includes a whole lot of lessons and a whole lot of inspiration that comes through the process of mikveh. And today one has a mikveh not only being an addendum or an extra that one might also talk about, it actually is a porthole of entry. This is where families have begun their journey.
From the onset of a menstrual cycle, man and woman abstain from physical contact for the duration of a menstrual cycle, or at least 5 days from the onset of a menstrual cycle. She then begins to count 7 complete days towards the night in which she will immerse in the mikveh, at which point husband and wife will then resume their physical, sexual, romantic connection again. The woman has counted the days, and it is now the night of immersion. She has come to the mikveh, and she is led into a beautiful preparation room. This is the room when one prepares one's body for the total immersion, whereby there is no substance whatsoever that will get in between one's body in its purest form and the holy waters of the mikveh. It is in this room that we remove any intervening substances that might be on the body, earrings, rings, makeup. One cleans one's body so that it is in its purest, cleanest form.
Water from a Torah Jewish point of view is the element that represents vitality and life. It is the source of life. It's what feeds life. It's what enables things to grow. And water is a very powerful image of being connected to one's source of life. But this water is unique in that it is not just water gathered from a tap. It has to be rainwater. It has to be water that is gathered in a very technically required method. And for that reason, under this whole body of water is another body of water, and also to its side. And that is the water that was collected as rainwater at the season. And the water that is in front of us is in fact connected from a borehole in the middle of our forest alongside the mikveh, and collected in, again, in a very technically required way.
We are taught that 4 rivers flowed out of the Garden of Eden, and our natural water today is in fact connected to the waters of the Garden of Eden. When one enters the mikveh, one feels reinvigorated and connected. This is an auspicious time for prayer and for reflection. It is a time to talk to Hashem and to pour out one's heart in such an intimate way. It is a holy time. It is a special time. It is a time of self-nullification and total surrender to something higher than ourselves. One emerges from the waters with an excitement for the honeymoon that's about to begin once again.
In Kohelet, or Ecclesiastes, King Solomon said, "The wise man's eyes are in his head," which has been interpreted as meaning his brain harboring his wisdom and understanding. Jewish sage Rabbi Nachman taught that the mind is the commander-in-chief of the body. Psychiatrist and Torah scholar Dr. Jonathan Moch expands on the phenomena of the brain and choosing one's reality through the concept of mindfulness.
As a psychiatrist, there's one aspect that I'm fascinated about the human brain, and that's the concept of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity seems to be a fancy word, but it's really quite an easy concept to understand, that the brain can change its form and its function due to experience. Let me repeat that. Your brain is active. Every experience, even watching this little clip, is changing your brain, which means that we can change our brain by the experience. We've been created with this brain that can go from birth right until death, changing. So people who, if you're 40 or you're 50 or 60, you don't have to give up and say, well, I'm too old. There are people I know that at 100, they've got their PhD. At 80, they're doing their masters in economics. At 90, starting a company. You're never too old to learn. And this, I think, is one of the greatest of God's creation, is our brain. made up of 100 billion neurons. We can change it. It's just your mindset, how you set your mind. Is it fixed or is it a growth mindset? Powerful, powerful stuff that we should take into our daily experience and look as though every day, every moment, a new creation. I've been fascinated how people have resilience and how people can, out of trauma, grow from it. And this is a very exciting part of what God has given us as a brain. Probably the greatest gift, the most complex organ that we have been created with to use. Creation didn't end after 7 days. It's still going on. And we need to be partners in creating a better world. And the greatest tool we have is this brain. The neuroscientists today who've been devoting their life to understanding the brain say that the brain is actually a bunch of muscles. And just as we have to exercise the physical part of our body by going to gym or by walking or hiking or whatever, so we need to keep our brain active and fit and flexible. There's many, many components to the brain. In fact, if we look at it from what God has given us, the work of Howard Gardner describes multiple intelligences, not just one type of intelligence. There's actually at least 9: musical, linguistic, languages, mathematics, interpersonal skills, existential form of intelligence, thinking about why we're here, what our purpose is. So our brain is multi-potential. We need to take responsibility. Responsibility is a beautiful word in English that you can divide in two, putting a line between response and ability. So it's our ability to respond. That means we can develop skills to respond and therefore choose the best response. There's a space between the situation and the response. That space, I think, is the most interesting real estate in the whole universe, because that's where we decide on what response. Now, in that space, over 90% of it is unconscious. So a lot of our choices are unconscious. So there's a little slither of this space, maybe 5 or 8%, some people estimate, where we can actually make a conscious choice. We can make a conscious choice and therefore change our response, which changes the next situation. That is creation. We can create the next situation by our choice of response. But we have to be mindful, because most of us are on autopilot. And we don't really appreciate that we can choose our response in many, many circumstances. Now, if we look more into this space, that's where I see more of God. And in that space, interestingly, there's a mind of the mind, or the mind has a mind of its own. In other words, we can be watching what's in that space. We can watch our emotions, we can watch our thoughts, we can watch our impulses. And through that almost indestructible part of us that can be watching, so we can choose. I'm often asked, what is this mind of the mind? My answer is that's what I understand the soul. The soul of a person is that part that's indestructible, that can actually choose what response we can make.
Ethics of the Fathers is a tractate of the Mishnah that details the Torah's views on ethics and interpersonal relationships. This week's Mishnah from Pirkei Avot comes from chapter 5, verse 18. One who causes the community to be meritorious, no sin will come by his hand. One who causes the community to sin is not given the opportunity to repent. Moses was meritorious and caused the community to be meritorious. So the community's merit is attributed to him. As is stated, he did God's righteousness and his laws with Israel. Deuteronomy 33:21. Sadly, that's all we have time for this week's episode of Simcha. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join us. If you'd like to be in touch with us, please find us on Facebook at Spirit Sister Productions and drop us a line. From myself, Eitan Berger, and the whole team here at Simcha, have a great week and goodbye.